All right. Good morning, good afternoon. Hello, everybody. So, I am doing a live stream here because I wanted to do something a little bit different than the power hours. So, power hours will continue. We'll continue those up in December. I'm still trying to figure out a good date to do that. And I know that I didn't advertised this event probably as much as I should have, but that's okay because what I wanted to do for about the next hour or so is talk about my author strategy and what that's going to be for 2021. Because I know that most of you, at least if you live anywhere on Earth, this has been a pretty crazy year. It's been very difficult to plan for anything. I know that 2020 for me has had a lot of ups and downs, and I've I've done pretty good this year in terms of author stuff, but it was very, very hard to plan. I mean, I came up with a strategy in 2020, and yeah, all the goals that I had tried to all the goals that I had set for myself, I don't think I accomplished a single one other than writing more books. And so I know that many of you probably have had a lot of ups and downs this year. And I don't know about you, but I am ready to close the box on 2020. I'm just ready to take 2020 and just put it in the trash and let the trash people come and get it. So first things first, say hello. Let me know who you are, where you're from. And I've got a little question down here. What's your 2021 author strategy? I would love to know how each of you are thinking about 2021 and some of the things that you're planning on doing, some of the things that you would like to accomplish. I would love to know what's going on here. So, hello, Susanna. Thank you for coming. Hello, Amy. Welcome. Ex Nemesis 73. As I'm writing my first book, I feel like 4 in 1 year is awesome. And I agree. That is a great number of books to publish your first year. And Adam, hello. Thank you very much. Hi, Jocelyn. How are you doing? Jocelyn, we're good to see you here. It's going to be a little bit different than a power hour, but if folks want to write, feel free to do so. All right. Susanna is from Lisbon, Portugal. All right. Ex Nemesis, it's taken me 3 months just to write 70,000 words. You know, that's actually not that bad, Ex Nemesis. That's pretty good. I mean, it took me 18 months to write my first book. And that was, I think it was like 120,000 word book. So, hey, you're doing pretty good by all means here. All right. Susanna says, I was just planning my 2021. Yeah, I know. It's funny, isn't it? It's going to be here before we know it. I mean, I was just telling my wife yesterday that January is like 6 weeks away. You know, it's crazy. You know, all right, Brian. Oh, hey, hello, Brian. I'm listening on headphones while I clean up a big mess. Well, I hope that this live stream makes it easier for you to clean that mess up, my friend. All right. Amy says that I want to finish the series I'm writing and start to publish them in 2021. Cool. Cool. And Johnny Scoggin says, hello. Hello, Johnny. And Brian says, knocked over a jar of jam in the dark at 4 a.m. Oh, boy, that sounds like a mess. Good luck cleaning that up. So, well, cool. Welcome, everybody. And like I said, feel free to keep commenting here. I'm going to give a little bit of a talk, but I'll break, occasionally and look at your comments. And if anybody has any like writing questions, be sure to save those. I'll answer them at the end. If it's off topic, I don't want to go too off topic throughout here. But anyway, the big thing I wanted to talk about was as January starts coming. January is the beginning of my year. So I like to plan from January to January, but I do all of my planning usually in October. So a lot of the stuff I'm going to show you guys today is a result of things that I've done since October. And I thought it would be a really cool idea just to sit down with all of you and talk about kind of things I'm going to be focusing on. And maybe there's something in here that you can take or think about, or, it might inspire you to do something else in 2021 that you didn't think about before. And it's going to inform a lot of the strategy and things that I'm doing here on the channel and here in my author business. So I wanted to let everybody know, first and foremost, though, that this live stream is sponsored. I have a sponsor. It's one of my books. I don't have an actual sponsor, but you guys know that the last 3 months or so, I did a beast mode, and I have a beast mode collection. So I put all of the 7 books that I wrote in 90 days. I put them all into one convenient collection for all of your all's convenience. And I'll throw that banner here on the screen. So just to let everybody know, you can grab your copy at authorlevelup.com/beast mode. And it's only on app or Kobo, Google Play, and it's on direct on my site. So I know a lot of you have been asking me when this was going to come out. So I just wanted to let folks know that it's out there. And anyone who buys it directly from me, and you can use a coupon code too, TrueFan2020. I'll actually put that in the, if I can, I don't know if it'll let me. I'll put that in the thing here, in the banner. Coupon code TrueFan2020. Your email will be thrown into a drawing for a 30-minute consultation with me. So if anyone, I did this last year and it was kind of a hit. People wanted me to do it again. I'm just offering 30 minutes of my time to 2 lucky people. We'll just sit down, and whatever problem you're dealing with at the moment, whatever writing problem you have, I'd be happy to be a sounding board, and you can pick my brain and talk to me about anything that's on your mind. And if I can help you in any way, I will do my best. So authorlevelup.com/beast mode, coupon code TrueFan2020. So that offer applies only to those who buy from me directly. All right. So I have a little bit of a PowerPoint here. It's not really a PowerPoint. I'll see if I can get this to work here real quick. Let's see. We're going to try this. Let's see if this works here. All right, folks, let me know if you cannot see that. Looks like it's showing up here on the screen. Yeah, that's much better. Okay. Cool. Okay, I just want to make sure that works. So I'm not hearing from anybody that says that they can't see it. So I just want to kind of go over this here. All right, so 2020, like I said, it has been a crazy year, and I don't know that anybody was able to plan adequately for it. And I think there's only a few things that we know for certain that are going to be happening in 2021. And I think that 2021 is probably, for all intents and purposes, probably going to look a lot more like 2020 than it is, say, 2019. So the only thing that I know for certain is that there's probably going to be economic uncertainty. So unemployment, the economy kind of going up and down, and we just don't know what's going to happen with, economic stimulus, and if governments are going to want to be able to work together. I don't know that that's probably going to change anytime in 2021. So to me, that causes a lot of economic and social uncertainty with folks, because when we're dealing with the biggest human health crisis of our lifetimes, there's going to be a lot of emotional ups and downs. And I know that I certainly had my emotional ups and downs this year. I think that's going to continue in 2021. And so at least I can plan for that, right? And I think that readers showed up in a really big way in 2020. And I think that they're going to continue to do that. I know a lot of authors whose sales went up as a result of the pandemic because more people were stuck at home. And I think that's going to continue, at least for the majority of 2021. So as far as I see it, I don't see anything that is going to be catastrophic to the author business as we know it. Now, I could be wrong because I was wrong in 2020, of course, but I think that readers are going to continue to buy books. That's not going to change. And if we continue to publish those books and continue to keep writing and just, in some ways pretend like there's not a pandemic out there, I think that we'll do favors for ourselves in the long run. So I tell people, don't stop writing. Just because things are tough right now, you can still sit down at the keyboard and you can still write. And so just keep that up, because I think that's going to be critically important. And I think we'll look back on 2020 and 2021, and I think we'll be proud of all the books that we collectively published as a community. I think it's going to be a really good thing. And I think there's going to continue to be a lot of competition. Traditional publishers held all of their books that they were going to publish over the summer, and they published them in the fall. I didn't notice a thing in terms of my sales. And so, yeah, there's going to be a lot more competition. There's going to be a lot more books that are going to be published, but I still think at the end of the day, it's going to be fine. So I'd love to know from all of you, what do you think about that? Is that accurate? What are some of the things you're thinking about as you think about 2021? All right. Okay. Well, let me know. Let me know. This is some things that I think about for sure. So, okay. All right. So there are some longer term threats that I think we have to think about. And this has nothing to do with the pandemic itself. I think that there are other things that we as authors need to be thinking about beyond 2021 and 2022 that will change potentially the way that we do business and the way that we show up. One of those things is artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence has been in the indie community for a while, but it's starting to really pick up steam. There are a lot of companies that are using artificial intelligence to help writers at some point in the writing process. So I think about companies right now that are pretty prominent that are using AI to help authors with developmental editing. Right, that's going to continue. That's going to continue taking hold. I don't see that going away anytime soon. There's ProWriting Aid and Grammarly that use some level of artificial intelligence that writers use, and I bet a lot of people didn't even know that was artificial intelligence, but it is. And so more authors are using that to help them write better books and catch more typos. And I think that we'll continue to see companies that are coming up with unique solutions for artificial intelligence. I just started a trial with a company called Prestazon. I don't know if any of you have heard of them, but they basically use the power of artificial intelligence to help you manage your Amazon ads better. So they crunch all the numbers, they look at your keywords, they look at your performance, and then they make recommendations based on their algorithms to help you maximize your ads. Like, that's something I've been waiting for a long time. I think there's going to continue to be interesting things like that, which I think poses an interesting opportunity. And it also poses an interesting threat when you think about AIs writing books, for example. I don't think we're there yet, but they certainly can write short-term things. I think monopolies are going to be a problem as well. The company named after the longest river in the world, the Everything Store, they're going to continue to do what they do. And, I don't think that they're always going to have authors' best interests at heart. And so we're going to have to continue to deal with that. And in many ways, that's really not a surprise. It's going to be something that sometimes we're going to have to deal with the changes of big companies. And I also think new forms of entertainment. So voice is very prominent right now, and I think that's going to continue to change. I think people are going to continue to shift toward audio. I think that there will be new ways to consume audio books with artificial intelligence in the future, and that's going to shift the way that we go to market. And so I think the future really is in audio. But there's also longer things that are out longer, like augmented reality, virtual reality, a more preference toward comic books and movies and television. So these are all things that we have to deal with as authors. And then also these two things on the bottom, these are two things that I don't know about the rest of you, but I think they keep me up at night. And I was in a job interview once, and the hiring manager asked me, Michael, would you be willing to stand on an island? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, if you really believe something and no one else around you believed it, would you stake your flag in the sand and just keep talking about it until people came around to your opinion? And I said, yeah, sure, I'll stand on an island. So these are two things that I'm standing on an island for, guys, because I think that these are important, and I hear nobody talking about them. But I think that it's going to make a big difference, and that is that as technologies like artificial intelligence come about, as corporations become more savvy, particularly publishing corporations, in terms of the technologies that are out there, they're going to have more access to to better technology that they can use to help them sell more books, such as AI, right? And that technology is going to be very expensive and almost a barrier to entry for indies to take advantage of. And so what I think could happen in the future is a future where we have the haves and have-nots, where you have authors or author houses that have access to tools that they can use to help them perform better. And then you have authors that can't afford it, or authors that don't have a big enough body of work to be able to do that. That's something that worries me quite a bit, and something that I think we have to think about. And I also think that authors, long term, we're kind of stuck doing manual tasks. So like if you think about all the things that you do today, I'm just going to go out on a hunch, but I bet all the things that you do related to your writing business are very manual. So like when you handle your emails, you're probably looking at every email and handling it. When you're writing your book, you are writing your book word for word, which is how it should be. When you are doing your marketing, you're doing everything by hand. And I think that we are so manual in a world that is becoming increasingly automated. There are a lot of tools out there that can help us be better versions of ourselves. And I think that authors who don't adopt these tools and find ways to be more productive are going to be left behind. And so longer term, I think we have to be very careful to be on the lookout for things that can help us save time. All right. Again, I talk about this all the time on my podcast. I'm willing to die on this hill because I believe it so much. So, all right, let's look at comments here. All right, Dale L. Roberts in the house. Welcome, Dale. Good to see you, buddy. And let's see here. All right, Jocelyn says, I think 2021 will be an opportunity to push our work in ways that are unexpected. I agree with that. And I think that trend will continue. And Ex-Nemesis says, I'm definitely going to pay for an audio copy of my first book. I work in a huge warehouse, and I've noticed a lot of people listen to audiobooks while they work. And I always assumed that they were listening. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, to music or podcasts until I started asking them. Yeah, it's the ultimate productivity hack to listen to books while you're doing stuff, right? So absolutely. So, okay. So then we come to the author, and we come to the author trying to find their way in an uncertain world and longer term threats. How do we stay relevant? How do we develop what I call staying power so that we're relevant today just as much as we're relevant in 2040? And I believe that the things that we're doing today are not going to be necessarily relevant or the same in 2040. So then the question is, how do we start to see what those things that we need to be doing are? How do we continue to evolve? And so my mission, which I think is probably the mission of every author, at least the first part in existence, is to educate and entertain my audience in the niches that I serve. So if I'm writing fiction, my goal is to entertain folks. If I'm writing nonfiction, or if I'm doing a live stream like this, my goal is to educate and maybe, if I'm lucky, entertain you folks. And the second part of my mission is to stay nimble. So no matter what happens in the industry, how can I continue to evolve? How can I continue to pivot? How can I continue to develop staying power and be relevant in an industry that is going to continue to change rapidly? All right, that's my mission. That kind of underpins everything that I do, and it's really very simple. You know, I think that some people can go overboard with their mission statements. I think the mission of authors is pretty simple. Yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward. Now, I have 5 pillars that I focus on to help me support my mission. So these 5 things are where I spend my time. These are the focus areas where, when I choose projects, they usually can be slotted into one of these 5 areas. And the first area, in order to help me fulfill my mission, is to become a world-class content creator. So what does that mean? Well, it means I'm creating the best possible content that I can create. So I'm creating the best possible books that I can create. And I'm always finding ways to take things to the next level. So world-class to me means top of my game. And am I there yet? No, but I have some ways to improve, some ideas on improving, and it's a constant work in progress. Nobody is super duper material at the beginning when they start. Everybody starts at zero, as Chris Fox says. And so when I think about becoming a world-class content creator, which is, I think, a goal that almost every author has to some degree, I think about two things. I think about quality, and then I think about quantity. So when I think about quality, it's what is the quality of the work? I mean, how can I improve my writing craft is kind of the first most obvious thing. But it's not just writing craft. It's also what does the consistency of my packaging look like? So like for Beast Mode, I just created 7 books. Do they look consistent on the inside? You know, how does the back matter look? Is that consistent? How am I treating my links in the text? Is that consistent? Stylistically, as I'm writing and editing the work, is it consistent so that readers have the exact same experience every time when they read one of my books? And I've made some strides there, but I've got some things that I can improve. And then when I think about quantity, and I just continue to do what I do, which is write a lot of books every year. So the more books I have, the more opportunities I have to reach readers, and the more readers I bring into my gravitational field. The more videos I do on YouTube, the more I bring people in. And so quality and quantity to me are the most important parts of becoming a world-class content creator. And so the projects that I choose to take on, I'm always thinking about them in terms of quality and quantity. So my Beast Mode collection, that was a quantity play, right? So when I was doing that publicly, showing all of you how I wrote 7 books in 90 days, that was quantity. I was just building onto my portfolio. All right. So that's what becoming a world-class content creator means to me. All right. Now, my second pillar is what I call becoming a world-class marketer. So you can create all the content in the world, but if no one wants to read it, then you failed. So I don't know about the rest of you, but marketing has always been my Achilles heel. I've always had a little bit of resistance to it because I've always thought that I was not that good at it, and I've had to improve on my marketing over the years. And I have found that I like to retreat into creating more content. That's my default because that makes me feel good. That's when I'm in my element. And then when I have to start marketing, I don't always do the best job. And so that is a focus for me because you can't have one and then not have the other, right? So a lot of people are blessed to be really good content creators, but they're not so good at the marketing. And then there are other people that are blessed with really good marketing instincts, but their content is not very good. So how do I fire on both cylinders, right? It's an important topic, and I know a lot of people have this struggle too. And when I think about marketing, becoming a world-class marketer, I think about 3 things. I think about revenue, I think about expenses, and I think about profit. And it's probably weird to see expenses and profit in this category, but revenue is kind of straightforward. It's how do you expand the reach of your books? How do you expand your revenue streams? How do you make more money? How do you sell more books? I mean, it's just pretty straightforward, right? But I think about expenses and profit as a way to keep more of the money that you make. So if you make, I don't know, I'm just going to use monopoly money here. If you make $100 a year from your writing and you spend 200, well, then, that's not really, it's not going to help you that much. You didn't make a profit and you spent more than you made. But if you make $100 and you keep 50, well, that's great because then you can invest that 50 into other things such as your business, right? And so when I think about expenses, I think about how can I set a budget that I can help me spend strategically so that I can grow my revenue, but also not overspend on my revenue. And then when I think about profit, how can I find ways to keep more of the money that I make? And with profit, one of the big things that I'm focusing on this year is kind of reducing my tax liability because I don't want to give as much money to the government. So how do I do that? That's a whole new world for me. But I think it's an important element when you start making a profit from your books because you can kind of get taxed to the max. So when I think about marketing, all of the things that I'm doing from expenses and profit help me to improve my revenue because it's money I can invest in and use to take more risks and pursue bigger opportunities. So marketing for me is more than just selling books. It also has to do with the back end of the business as well. So, all right, I'll stop and look at some comments here. All right, so Little Erickson Studio says, but wasn't creativity the only thing that separates humans from AI? I would hate to see art and literature go more stereotypic because of publishing fears or unaffordable AI tools. Yeah, you make a good point there. And sorry, I'm looking off into the other monitor because I got my presentation here. But I would say that I believe in what Joanna Penn says. She says that we have to focus on doubling down on being more human. And I absolutely believe that. I don't think AI is ever going to replace authors, but I do think that if you're a nonfiction author, you probably should be a little concerned in that if an AI can create a book that has just as much value as what you're creating, might that be a problem? But I think we can use AI to write better books too. So it's kind of a weird yin and yang thing, I guess. So, all right. So Rodney says, I founded my own publishing company this year. My immediate goal is to release a debut novel at the end of this year. Well done, Rodney. Good job and good luck. And then I learned the hard way to take my time and learn the craft of writing, editing, and publishing. Absolutely. And Vincent says, marketing, what is this marketing of which you speak? I don't know. I have amnesia. I'm in an amnesia mode right now, guys. I like to tell folks that I fell down, I hit my head, and I don't know anything about marketing anymore. So I'm relearning marketing from the ground up as we speak. So be sure to follow my blog if you are interested in that, or my YouTube community tab. So, all right. So that's marketing. Become a world-class marketer. Okay. Now 3 and 4 are kind of interrelated. And so I talk about becoming a world-class content creator, becoming a world-class marketer, and number 3 and 4 are how can I become a technology and data driven writer. So I believe, and I said this before, I'm willing to die on this hill, that technology and data are going to be our best friends moving forward in the next decade. Because I think that, as I said before, a lot of what we do is manual. And we need to find ways to streamline what we're doing as authors so that we can spend more time doing what we do best, which is creating and marketing. We need to find ways to automate what we're doing, meaning there are a lot of things that we probably do today that we probably shouldn't be doing that a computer can help us do, and we can save time and probably do it better. Frankly, there are a lot of things that fall into that category, like Amazon ads, making recommendations on what you should bid on and things like that. And then also outsourcing. So as we become more successful, how can we bring on people to our teams that can help us become better versions of ourselves? Now, that's far down the road. I'm not even there yet. I mean, I have a video editor, but I'm not at a point where I can bring on a whole team, but that's a North Star. Right. And when I think about bringing on a team and having people help me, I don't want them to be doing things that don't make sense. Like I don't want to have a task that's 100% manual that I hate. And then I give that to somebody and I pay them to do a 100% manual task. No, I want to find a way to streamline and automate that so that I can only give the most important parts to someone to handle for me. So I believe that creating a technology-driven business as a writer in the future is going to be the number one thing that helps me stay nimble. All right. And I'll talk a little bit more about that. So for technology and data, I spend time investing in technology and investing in my own data, getting insights from it. But really, it's to support the other areas of the business. So how can I use technology and data to create better content? How can I use technology and data to market my work better? How can I use technology and data to make better decisions, right? And how can I use technology and data to unlock what I like to call future capabilities or future endeavors? So a project that I worked on this year that I'll share with you is I created a way to do my sales better. So I don't know about the rest of you, but I'm wide, so I'm not in Kindle Unlimited. So I have 54 books, and they're everywhere. So Apple, Barnes & Noble, Kobo, Google Play, Amazon, so on and so forth. And I get like 15 royalty statements every month. And it's kind of a pain in the ass because you got to look at them. You got to figure out how much you made. And then if you want to figure out how much you made for the year, you got to find some way to combine them. And guys, I was spending 4 to 5 hours a month doing my royalty statements, figuring out how much money I made. And I was spending all this time in Excel and I didn't feel like I was getting anywhere. So I figured out a way to take all of my royalty statements, roll them into one, And then it spit out charts and tables and data about how much I was making and what the trends were without having to do any data entry. So literally, I just take the files, I run them through this tool that I created, and the tool spits out how much money I made and what I need to do. And I took my time spend from 4 to 5 hours a month down to about 30 to 45 minutes. That's what I'm talking about when I talk about technology and using that to support the other areas of my business. All right. So I'll talk a little bit more about some of the other things that I'm working on as well. But technology and data, I think, are absolutely important. And I think that's going to be the real difference. The authors that can embrace technology and data and use those to support their businesses, because that'll help them stay more nimble. All right. Now, the last pillar is what I call becoming a writer of the future. All right. So what does it mean to be a writer in the year 2040 or the year 2050? It's a lot different than what it means to be a writer today. And so how do we start thinking about that? And we can go where the puck is headed, to quote Wayne Gretzky, right? So to me, this means studying the past, staying up to date on current events, looking to the future, and protecting the business. So being on the lookout for new opportunities, like, for example, audio. Narrating my own audiobooks is an opportunity for me. All right, it's that simple. So for 2021, these are kind of my priorities, and this is very, very streamlined compared to what I typically have. So content creation, I want to write 10 books in 2021, right? 10 books. So I'm at 54 books. I want to be at 64 books by the end of the year. In terms of quality, I want to improve some of those consistency gaps that I was talking about. With marketing, I want to improve my copywriting. So as I look at my portfolio, I think the number one thing I can do is improve my copywriting skills. And I think that will help improve my income. And so I've also got a budget and reducing tax liability, but we won't go into that. And then for technology and data, one of the things that I want to create is what I call an AI editing engine. So I actually worked with someone in my community actually to create a prototype. So imagine this: you write your books, and then you send them to your editor, and then your editor sends you edits, and then you write your next book. But can you remember all of the edits that your editor recommended for book one when you're writing book two? Like, if you're really bad with commas, or you're really bad with semicolons, or you accidentally use a word incorrectly, how many of those are you going to remember when you sit down and write your next book? And the answer is probably not all of them. I know I certainly don't. So wouldn't it be interesting if you could create an AI model that basically you fed all of your books into, and all of the edits that your editor recommended, and that model understands your work. And then when you write your next book, you feed your manuscript through that model, and then it makes recommendations based on the edits that your editor recommended before you send it to your editor again. So it basically helps you become a better version of yourself. Believe it or not, it's actually not that hard to do, and the technology exists. And I actually created a working prototype based on, a chapter from one of my books. And so it's actually easier and cheaper to create than I thought. And so that's something I'm going to be looking into, so that I can create an AI that it basically understands my work and makes recommendations based on errors that I have made in the past. And then it becomes like an extra buffer between ProWriting 8 and Grammarly. All right. With marketing, I want to create an automated swipe file. There's something I want to try with this. I won't go into too in depth today, but if you know what a swipe file is, maybe that's interesting to you. And then with data, I want to create a visual dashboard for my sales, because this tool that I have, it's really cool, but it doesn't give me all the insights that I want. And so I want to try to create a visual dashboard. All right. And then becoming the writer of the future. The goal is for me to implement direct sales on my website. And then I want to narrate 4 of my books into audio, because I think that books that are narrated by the author are a big selling point. Right. And I think that there'll be more opportunities for me if I can do that. So as I think about 2021, those are kind of the things that I'm going to be focusing on, but that's not everything. Right. And so when I think about 2021 and 2020 and 2022, my goal for the rest of the year is just to keep growing and keep saving. 2021 is about plugging gaps across the business, so that when I get to 2022, I can start building out feature capabilities and I can do some additional things. All right. So that is kind of the gist of what I wanted to share with all of you today. Let me stop sharing my screen here, and I'll bring this over. And I just want to know, was this has this been helpful? Is this interesting? Do you find this interesting, or is it just too in the weeds? I actually like to know that, because I'm really just talking out loud here. I'm just kind of testing the audience and seeing if this is something people are interested in. Let's see. Little Erickson says, it would already speed up my writing to learn 10-finger typing. Yeah. And then J.E. Crow says, are goals for seasoned writers going to be different from new writers, or is there some overlap? Yeah, I think there's overlap. I mean, the goals that I have are probably not that different than what a beginner writer would have, really, because at the end of the day, you want to write better books. You got to learn how to market them. The only things that are maybe a little bit different are the technology and data and becoming a writer of the future. But I still think that that's pretty important. I think that in the beginning of your career, you're probably going to be more focused on becoming a better content creator, because you got to learn how to write your books, learn how to produce them in a professional way. And so that's going to take up more of your time in the beginning. But once you've gotten a few books under your belt, I don't know that the goals are all that different. It's just maybe some of the day-to-day things. All right. Okay, MB Webster says accounting would be the very first thing I'd outsource. I cannot math. I've never heard math used as a verb. I love it. How fantastic that you streamline that. Amazing. Yeah, it's not as hard as you think. It absolutely can be done. All right, Little Erickson says, well, newbies are still figuring out how to finish a first draft, not how to streamline their royalties. Yeah, you're right. You're right. And when you only have 1 or 2 books, it's probably not a problem. But when you have 5 or 7 books, it becomes a problem that you have to deal with down the road. And yeah, that one thing is probably not something that you would probably focus on, but it's something you're going to have to deal with at some point. And that's why I'm talking about it. It's not really to brag, but it's just to try to bring awareness to it, because every author will have this problem at some point, and it will cause you an immense amount of pain until you do something about it. All right. Wow. A lot of comments came in. Awesome. All right. So a lot of people saying it's very helpful. I really appreciate that. Okay, good. Yeah, so a lot of comments. I can't can't look at them all. Is very cool. Yeah. And I will do my best. Yeah. Vincent says, tools to pre-edit would be very useful. I agree. I think that there's an opportunity there for folks to potentially do this. So it's one of my big things, guys, is how do you develop staying power as an author? Because what's really easy to focus on is it's really easy to focus on the craft, and it's really easy to focus on the books, and it's easier to focus on the marketing. But there's so much more to being a writer than just those 2 things. And yes, they're really important, but the longer I do this, the more I kind of realize, I need to be better at just running a business and being a business person and being able to think like a publisher, like Dean Wesley Smith would say. And a lot of these things that I'm learning now are probably things that I probably should have learned earlier, but I just didn't know that they were important. And so, like streamlining my expenses and accounting, it's probably something I should have done like 5 years ago, but I didn't do it because I didn't know you could, and 2, I didn't know it was important. And so I'm kind of paying the price for it now, but it just kind of is what it is. All right. McFly Style says, I appreciate the content. I never thought about using technology to erase or to ease my writing workload. Yeah. I mean, there's lots of things you can do. I mean, Scrivener writing on your phone, dictating your book, right? I mean, these are all ways that you can use technology. It doesn't need to be complicated. It just look at what you're doing today and like, just sit down and just do an exercise. This would be a fun exercise for a Saturday afternoon. That's probably only something I would do, but maybe you folks would be interested in it. Sit down and on a piece of paper or on Microsoft Word, write down everything that you do as a part of your writing business. And then break out those tasks into the things that you should be doing, into the things that you probably shouldn't be doing and that are just a waste of time, and then the things that maybe could be outsourced in the future. And I think what you'll find is that you'll start to take a lot of things off of your plate. Like, for example, um, when I'm working on my books and I have to handle my emails, there's a lot of emails that come in that I probably don't need to see. Right. So one of the things that I did is I set filters on my email inbox that set a bunch of rules so that if an email comes from PayPal with a receipt, for example, then it goes into a folder. I don't need to see it until the end of the month when I'm doing my accounting. Right. If an email comes from a fan, from one of you guys, that stays in my inbox and it goes to the top because that's something that I want to address right away. So there's ways like that's automation. Like it's that simple. It's free. If you have a Gmail account, or if you have Outlook or any email provider that offers that functionality, you can now automate some of the emails that are coming in your inbox. And maybe you only save 5 minutes or 10 minutes a week, but that's a big deal. You know, that's time you can spend writing your next book. And so if you look at all the things that you're doing, and then if you try to find a way to do them faster, you'll probably find that there are services out there, and a lot of them are free, that will allow you to do that. And so that's how you have to think about it. It's not something that's terribly expensive, and it's not something that will take you a whole lot of time if you're willing to invest in it. But the tools are out there. That's the beautiful thing about this. When you think about technology and data, a lot of the tools are out there already, and a lot of them are probably on your computer. You just don't know it. That's the really cool thing. So just a quick reminder, guys, that this video is sponsored by my Beast Mode collection. I wrote 7 books in 90 days. You can get it at authorlevelup.com/beast mode. And if you buy it from me directly, 2 lucky people will get entered in or 2 lucky people will get a consultation from me. So you can sit down with me. You can talk about your 2021 strategy, talk about what's going on in your next book, talk about any other author problems that you have. And I would be happy to help you in any way that I can. So, all right. So what I want to know from all of you all, that's all I had prepared today. So if you have questions on writing or anything, I would love to stay on for a minute and answer any questions that you all have. What's on your mind? What you're working on? What are some of the issues you're encountering? All right, Elizabeth Batten says, I just discovered Word has a dictation button. Game changer. Yeah, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. And MB Webster says, it's also saving your mental, emotional energy by not adding those to your mental space. Yeah, I'm not sure what the context is on that, but yeah, I agree with the spirit of what you're saying. All right. And Jocelyn Carter agrees with Elizabeth. So, well, cool. Well, guys, that's all I had. I just want to say thanks for listening in. I appreciate you being a sounding board for me for about 35 minutes as I talk about what my own strategy is going to be. And like I said, I hope that there's been something interesting here today that you can take and use. And I'll be talking more about my 2021 strategy as the year goes on. But I did want to let everybody know that I do have, let me put this banner up here. I do have, let's see here. I do have, what I showed you today is kind of the high level stuff. I do have a more advanced document that I made public for anyone who's interested. If you're kind of geeky about this stuff and you really want to dig into it, you can check that out. I'll put this, I thought I had a banner for it, but I didn't. authorlevelup.com/2021 strategy. It is a mind map, and you can click into that mind map and you can kind of explore it. And a lot of the stuff I just talked about was tip of the iceberg. You guys know I move at a pretty quick tempo, and so I can get a lot done really quickly. And so there's going to be some other stuff out there. Okay. Any thoughts on African-American children's books as a genre? I think it's a great idea. I think there are lots of books out there that kind of already do it. I know my daughter got some books for Christmas that were very much African-American protagonists, and I got nothing but love for that. So Yeah, go for it. I mean, there's definitely an audience for it, and it continues to grow. I think that traditional publishers, they still don't know how to market black books. Like they don't really know how to speak to us. So you may have a path there through self-publishing, but it might be a bit of a challenge. But if you've got that book on your heart, then I say go for it. All right. Johnny asks, what do you think of AutoCrit? I haven't used AutoCrit enough to really know, to really comment on them. They're similar to Pro Writing Aid and Grammarly, but I think AutoCrit is really more focused on the developmental editing piece, if I remember correctly. I think I might have used a trial, and what I saw, I don't think it blew me away, but it's been a few years, so check it out, and if you like what they recommend, then try it. One of the things I always try to caution people with about developmental editing software, particularly a lot of stuff that's coming out now, is that at the end of the day, it's your story. Just because someone or a system recommends that you need to change your character arc does not mean that you need to change your character arc. Do what makes sense and do what feels good. Don't let an AI drive the decisions that you're making. Let's see. Oh, My Fly Style. I love that name. Do you have a video on the 7 books in 90 days? I do. Last week, well, I kind of do. Last week, I did a video on writing while I was traveling, and I talked about how I did that. Probably the best thing for you to do if you're interested in hearing more about it is to listen to my podcast, The Writer's Journey. It's every Thursday, and you can find that at authorlevelup.com/journey. And you can listen to all of the episodes every week. And every week for those 90 days, I did a diary, and I talked about kind of what I was working on and what the struggles were. So that's a good idea. I probably should do a dedicated video on that. So I appreciate that. Okay, so let's see here. Oh, hello, Robin. Jumping in late here. Too many leaves to deal with on this sunny day in New York City. Awesome. It is a dreary day here in Iowa. Like, it's depressing, but I love it. It's my favorite kind of weather. All right. Gussie says, thank you. You gave me a lot to think about. I appreciate it. And Brian asks, how do you keep your writing into the dark novels from growing too complex? It's a good question, Brian. Writing into the dark, I write all my books into the dark now, meaning I don't write with an outline. I just kind of, write it by the seat of my pants. There really is. I've never really thought about them as becoming too complex. I think it's possible for you to lose control of the book, and that's why I think that the element that Dean talks about in the method, which is outlining as you go, I think becomes really important. So if you have one of those books where you've got a lot of plot lines or you've got a lot of things that are complicated, then outlining is going to be your best friend. And another tip you probably could do if you feel like you've got a book that's complicated is you could do a mind map of the book. I use Mindomo. It's a mind mapping app, and that can help you kind of keep everything visual and stay on top of it. So yeah, to me, there's really no such thing as a too complex novel. If your subconscious is leading you to write something that's really complex, it probably means that's what you're meant to write, and that's probably a good thing. So what I would do instead is lean into it and just make sure you have a way to keep everything organized. All right, let's see. Rod asked, do you think short stories are worthwhile? It's my favorite form and want to publish collections. Yeah, Rod, I love short stories, man. I think they're great. I think it's a lost art form. I think most people that are reading commercial fiction don't always think about short stories, but I think they're a tremendous art form. When I first started writing short stories. In fact, I swore that I would never write a novel. I thought I was going to be someone who wrote short stories for the rest of my life. And look how that turned out. But yeah, they're absolutely worthwhile. It depends on what you want to do with them. Do you want to just write them as a way to improve your craft? Do you want to publish them in a literary magazine? Do you want to even make money from them? Because they're all 3 different tracks. Like, for example, like if you want to write science fiction and fantasy or even romance short stories, there are magazines out there that will pay you to publish your work. It's really hard to get into them, but they'll pay you. And you can make a pretty good income from publishing short stories in magazines, assuming you're good enough and you can get selected, you can get through the gatekeepers. Oh man, I mean, there are some people that can make a comfortable living on just writing short stories. So I'm not saying that everybody can do that. It's not easy, but it's definitely possible. And publishing collections is also a pretty smart thing to do. As a self-publisher, I probably would temper your expectations, because short story collections don't tend to sell as well as, say, novels. But to me, I think short stories are a great thing to give away to your readers, and a great way to just kind of practice your craft. I've written about, I think, 70, 80 short stories or so, and I've loved every single minute of it. So, okay, Vincent says for the timelines and mind maps. Yep, timelines is good. Aeon Timeline is another good app that you can use for that as well. And then Robin says short stories are great for classroom use. Sometimes teachers can't commit the time necessary to cover a full novel every few weeks. Yeah, that's true. When I was in high school, we almost exclusively read short stories, and it definitely gave me an appreciation for the art form. So, all right, well, everybody, I'm seeing questions. Feel free to keep bringing in your questions if you like, but just to remind everybody that if you want to check out the rest of my 2020 strategy, you can check that out at authorlevelup.com/2021 strategy. All right. And that is a very in-depth document, just to give you a heads up. It's very in-depth, but I figured I'd just kind of make it public, because there's so many things that like authors, like successful authors, like, you look back on their careers and it's like, how did you do it? Like, what was the thought process? And I'm not a successful author, but I think it's kind of cool to talk about your thought process transparently, and maybe people can get something from it. So, okay. Robin asked, thoughts on Christian versus general market. I wrote a clean YA novel, but I'm hesitant to pitch as Christian, as I feel it limits my market exposure. Yeah, I don't really know very much about that, about that genre, Robin. I would say that the Christian market is a completely different world. If you're going to market something as Christian, that's another galaxy. So I would, probably make sure you're clear on what you want to pitch it as, because if you're going to go the Christian route, just based on basic things that I know about the Christian market, there's certain things you're going to have to adhere to, and certain things you probably can't have in the book. So that's a pretty big decision. Yeah, it's definitely. Vincent says, to answer your question, Robin, I think you'll find that it's a fairly large market, and yeah, it is. The Christian market is very big, very, very big. I mean, it almost rivals. It's almost like a macrocosm of everything that's non-Christian. So, like, there's Christian science fiction, Christian fantasy, all that stuff. So, yeah, it's definitely a good genre if you want to write in it. All right, so Wes asks, I discovered that when I wrote an outline, I lose interest because it feels like I have written the novel. How do I get excited about finishing the novel that got stifled by the outline? Yeah, this is one of the critical problems with outlining, in my opinion, that it's really easy once you've written your outline to get bored, to feel like you already know what's going to happen. That's why I write into the dark. That's why Dean Leslie Smith started writing into the dark, because what I find, so my first 4 novels, no, I think it was 4. It's like 4 or 5, maybe 6. I don't remember. I forget the order of my books anymore. But my first handful of novels, I'll say that, I outlined them, and I outlined them really thoroughly. So I, had everything worked out in Scrivener. I had the cork board. I had everything laid out in such a way that every time I got to a new chapter, I knew exactly what I was going to write. And I started to find, as I was writing the book, Wes, that either I got bored, kind of like you, or I found out that, screw the outline. I don't care what that says. I'm going to kind of go this way, because my character would take me in a different direction. And so I started to find that it was really more of the latter. Like, I would start to write, and then the outline wouldn't even matter. Like, it was kind of irrelevant. And so I started to ask myself, if I'm spending all of this time outlining only to either be bored and kind of hate what I'm writing, or deviate from the outline completely, why am I outlining? So, you might sound like a candidate that might benefit from ditching your outlines if it's truly boring you. Because I don't really know a good remedy to get yourself excited about it, honestly. Um, there's the saying that if you don't know what's coming next in the book, neither will your reader. Maybe that's something you could think about. If you're excited and you don't know what's going to happen, maybe that might be true for you as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, if you really do feel like outlining is what you want to continue doing, then maybe brushing up on some different outlining theories or different outlining craft things could be helpful for you. It could be that the sections that you're getting bored in, or maybe those are the sections where you kind of need to wing it. Like you could do like a hybrid where you do outline part of the book, but then the parts of the book here and there where you're bored, you write them into the dark. You know, that could be something. Vincent says the problem I run into with writing into the dark is pacing. I end up editing to fix a lot of pacing issues. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Pacing is one of those things where it's kind of tough to learn in the beginning. Like there's a way to do pacing, and it's kind of counterintuitive. Like it has to do a lot with the lengths of your sentences and the lengths of your paragraph and the appearance of the text on the page. Whereas, like when I first learned it, I didn't initially think about that. And so, yeah, you're right. You do have to think about that. I try to address pacing when I'm looping. So with writing into the dark, there's this concept of looping. So every 500 words, you write, and then every 500 words you stop and you go back to the first 500 words, and then you go back through it and you kind of loop it. I'm just kind of giving an example for those who aren't familiar with it. And when I'm looping, I try to pay attention to things like the five senses, pacing, all that stuff. So really, really good stuff. All right. Well, guys, it's about the top of the hour. I've got some books to write, and I've got some content to create. So I'm going to sign off. But thank you so much for coming. I really appreciate it. And let me know if you want to see these kind of random topics from me in the future. I do want to do some more live streams, and I got to get like Dale Roberts, where I get the fancy stuff on the screen. I'll eventually get there. But I really appreciate it. And one last question here. Can you recommend any books or other tools to learn pacing, or other authors to look into? The only resource that I can recommend that has been helpful for me is Dean Wesley Smith. He does a really good course over at WMG where he talks about pacing. He has an entire course on it. It's kind of an advanced course, but it's the only pacing resource I've ever seen that really made things click. All right. So that's the one I would recommend. So thank you for the question. Thank you, everybody. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and I will holler at you next week. Peace.